Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Since we were kids, we've been told that we should have self-esteem, a healthy amount of self-esteem as you pilot through life. What if you don't? What if you're looking in the mirror and, like many of us do, like, what is that? Well, oh my God, where'd that come from? We're our worst critic. We're always beating up on ourselves. We would never say the things that we say to ourselves, even in our mind, to somebody we love, but we do it. How do we find that self-esteem? How do we know what a healthy amount of self-esteem is? A little piece of what she does in terms of helping people move their lives forward through a wonderful place called New Beginnings. Uh, and that's is located in Massachusetts. They offer therapy, counseling, and they can do that for anybody, anywhere. I always love talking with her. A lot of revelations come up with Sherri Alexandrovich, who's back on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Very well. Very
Good.
well. Lots of questions here about self-esteem. I'm going to just barrel right through here if I can.
Okay, you go right ahead.
What's the difference between self-esteem and the ego?
Hmm.
Are they the same? Are they connected? Are they loosely connected?
Well, I think that they are connected. I think that our ego is, the part of us that interprets or not really evaluates, but kind of a sense of who we are on the inside. And so that does play into the self-esteem. And the self-esteem is really just our perception of how we're viewing ourselves and how we perceive that other people view us. And that's so important. You had mentioned that, in childhood because that's where our self-esteem really forms, and it's formed by messages we get from caregivers or parents or friends or boyfriends, girlfriends, teachers, and that just kind of continues to build upon each other. So if our foundations are negative and we continue to get negative messages, we're going to continue to kind of have this anxious, fearful sense of self, which is going to really interfere with our decision making. It interferes with our relationships with other people, interferes with how, the things that we're going to explore, or the confidence that we have to break free from toxic relationships or break free from things that are not healthy for us. So it really is a foundation for us on so many other levels.
Hmm. How do you know that you have a healthy amount of self-esteem?
I don't know that there's really a gauge. I think it's how you're feeling. So, I mean, the understanding that the people, the application pool that I have, right? The people that we see are people who aren't high on the self-esteem ladder. So they're coming to us for help with that self-esteem building that's typically morphed into some other mental health challenge that they've experienced. So I think that the challenging part for therapists is that, the people that we see are people who are struggling in certain areas. So to have a really kind of a good gauge about what the general population is, I think is just, it would be a little bit skewed from how I would answer it, just given the clientele that I work with. But I think that when you look at kids that are out skipping 5 feet ahead of their parents and they're feeling comfortable and confident with that, even
Hmm.
as a 2 or 3-year-old, there's a healthy attachment. That kiddo does not have this fear-based feeling like, oh, mom or dad is going to leave me, or the world is a dangerous and scary place. And so when you see these kids that have this, like this confidence, then the first place that my mind goes to is, wow, that he or she has some budding really great self-esteem traits because they're able to go off and explore these things and feel confident with that. Does that?
I got a great visual as soon as you said the kids
Okay, yeah.
skipping ahead of the parents. Right away, there's a happy, joyful, somewhat confident kid. Nothing, not a worry in the world. I'm good. Wouldn't it be great if we all did that as adults?
Right. And I think even those little kids that start off that way, the world kind of chips away at you as you get older. And really, depending on what you have for those coping skills or those resiliency skills, there's going to temper how we handle all of those challenges as they continue to come up as we get older, as we're exposed to more people, as we're out in the world. All of that like foundation work is done in those really formative years for us. And so the challenge comes is what about those kiddos who didn't have that or that grew up in foster care or
Mhm.
hospitalized due to sicknesses for years, before that they were able to even come home. Those are the fundamental skills that a lot of these kids missed out on.
Wow. And as we've said before, a lot of what we experience as children, call
Mhm.
it between 0 and 7, this is what's piloting us. So
For
if there
sure.
were things that took shots at your self-esteem, whatever they are, bullying, people said
Mhm.
stuff, whatever they might be,
Mhm.
it's almost like your gas tank of self-esteem is running on low to begin with, and now you enter your adult years and you're still piloting on a very small amount of that. With counseling therapy, can we slowly build that up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can slowly build that up. And just the affirmations that I've talked a little bit about over the last couple of weeks as well, is those are really
Huh.
important things, is, finding those little things that resonate for each and in every one of us, because that's different. Every kid is different. Every kid has different things that are desirable to them or that they want to be like or to achieve. And so finding out what that individualized item is for each kiddo and then being able to expand upon it. And one of the things that I talk a lot about is being the best version of ourselves. And so that's what we all want to strive for, right? Is how do we find the best version of ourselves?
Hmm.
What that means really is that's reaching self-actualization. So if Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and some people are familiar with that. So there's a triangle. And so Maslow came up with what are our hierarchy of needs. And we can't get to the second, the third, the fourth, or the fifth level unless we've mastered that first level. And that first level is meeting our psychological needs, our basic needs, food, shelter, clothing. And then, and so you continue to work up the ladder of what that looks like. And so safety is the next one. And then love is now the fourth, the third one. The fourth one is self-esteem. So we can't really get to the self-esteem.
Ah.
This is where it's all going to tie together. We can't get to the self-esteem level unless we've met all of the criteria underneath it, because that's our foundation. That's how we're going to build. So as therapists, it's really important to assess whoever it is that we're working with on where they're at. What are their most basic needs that we need to meet in order to build upon? So the fifth level of the hierarchy is self-actualization. And that is really when we have gotten to the point where we can now be the best version of ourselves. That's what we all want to strive for. That's kind of what the end goal is in the psychological world. But being able to get there is what's important, and how we get there is what's important.
On the hierarchy,
Hmm.
what's above self-esteem?
Self-actualization, that's the highest. That's the pyramid, that's the top of it. That's
Hmm.
what we all strive for. That's the best version of ourselves that we can be, and we can go and achieve this level of just acceptance and without any fear, without any anxiety, and just be able to be the best version of who we want us to be without hesitation. And just having that feeling of um, peace and accomplishment, inside of us, inside of our soul. That's what most of us really eventually want to get to, is feeling really good about who we are, the decisions that we make, the choices that we make.
Do you think that peace is underestimated, undervalued in all of this? Like, do you really, once you know what peace is, and
Mm.
you might not have that unless those four things
Yeah.
are realized, you're not going to see it and not even going to understand what peace is.
hmm I would agree with that. I think that a lot of people really have either not experienced or really don't understand what that inner peace feels like. And so let me give you, I tend to be I'm a really visual person in all areas of my life. So I use a lot of analogies when I'm doing my therapy because I am such a visual person. But if you can just imagine, say, sitting outside in a chair and all you can hear around you is the birds and the waterfall and the wind blowing in the trees, and to sit there and experience that in its completeness without the anxiety, the fear of the what's next, or
Mm,
fear of is there rain coming? What do I need to be doing next? Who do I have to pick up at the doctor's appointment? What's on my grocery list? But to sit there and just have that sense of peace, that's rare. A lot of us don't have the opportunity to really experience that. And I think that that's really right up there with getting towards that self-actualization where you really can just feel that
mm.
sense of complacency, where you're just really happy and there it is. Everything around you is where you need it to be. And that's a wonderful place to want to strive towards.
I got your visual right away, and I rarely take time off, but I took a weekend late September last year and
hmm
just saw a friend who was in between doing work, and he had an Airbnb. It was in Florida. I was right on the coast, and I went there, just spent a little bit of time. The best part of it was sitting on the deck, looking at the ocean, doing nothing else. Four
Right.
hours. That's it. I was just like, well, I
Yeah.
could do. No, I don't want to do anything. Well, what about? No, I don't want to do anything. Yeah, I'll go get something to eat. I'm coming right back here, and it was wonderful. Just
Yeah.
maybe I got to a point where touching the peace thing. But it was just great, and I'm looking forward to doing that again. I don't need to, be great to catch up on a couple of books. I always put them aside, but just that time, just to really just take it in, reflect, um, like you said, without worrying about all this other stuff.
And what
Yeah.
a privilege, right? Think about that. Think about your life and your journey. And I don't know much of, about your life or your journey, but all of us individually, if we think about our life and our journey, it's a privilege to get there and to be able to sit and have that moment. And that's something that I think the people who have achieved it or have it on a regular basis, that would be something I would encourage you to never lose sight of. Don't ever lose that moment of, pure appreciation that you've gotten to that level of your life where you're not so busy, you're so crazy, you're underestimating yourself, or always, thinking that you need to hit that next accomplishment in
Mm,
order to feel satisfied because sometimes we're searching for something that we already have. It's already inside of us. We just kind of like, Dorothy with the shoes, right? I mean, we have the power inside of us all the time. We just don't realize that we have it. And sometimes we need that help
for
just to
sure.
remind us to click our shoes.
And it's not to say that life is great and there's no issues whatsoever, and I can just sit
Of
here and
course
do
not.
whatever I want, whenever I want.
Mhm.
No, it's being able to take the moment and use it in a certain way. And of
Right.
course, when you return from that moment, got a lot going on. But at
Yeah.
that moment, to be able to just, and I think, it took me my whole life to pretty
hmm
much get to that moment where you just can, if it's
Yep.
2 days, just a little bit of reflection and not worry
Sure.
about the other stuff so much.
Right. And, there's something to be said when we try those moments for ourselves and we can't achieve it. So
Mm,
there's a whole other area of exploration that you want to look into. Why can I not sit quietly? Why is my mind racing a million miles an hour? Is it that I am so overscheduled? And if that's true, then how do I change that? Or is it that I'm just not comfortable sitting with myself? And
mm,
and that's something that people really don't understand, or they're keeping themselves busy, but they don't understand the why of why they're keeping themselves busy. It's because sitting still sometimes maybe they're ruminating about things that they don't want to be, or there's something about themselves that they're not comfortable with. So we're always trying to achieve something different almost like, well, that's going to help us to feel better. Or if my house is immaculate, if my laundry is always folded, if my yard is meticulous, or if, if my kids are A students, right? We have these external things that we want to put emphasis on about giving us that sense of self, but that comes from inside. It doesn't
Yeah.
come externally.
Well, I forget what that's called, but the if I could just have a clean house, then this would be better. If I could just have the car I wanted, this would be better. If I could just have that
Mm.
job I wanted, then this everything would be better.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and there
Well,
are
we're
many
always
people.
the woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? So we're always looking for the next best thing, but the next best thing can be right here next to you. I
Mm.
mean, I'll tell you what, the next best things for me when I'm reflective on my weekend, watching my grandson dominate that court, going down, swishing. I have a very close friend of mine whose son was tragically killed 5 years ago, and the anniversary was on Sunday. And so my grandson, who's 11, went and made a banner with his number on it, number 9 for Blaine, and wore purple under his shirt. And this was him. He did this. He took it to the basketball court. He had all of the kids at the end of the game hold it up and yell Elvis Strong, and just really to memorialize him. And those are the moments that you sit back and you say, that can't, you don't teach that. That's not a teaching moment. That's a something inside of that kid moment. Or my 2-year-old granddaughter had on the little Team Mass t-shirt this week, and I can't even stand it with her curls, right? And she just, the confidence, the sassiness as she walks, and you look at her and you're like, okay, your heart just like literally pops open inside of your chest. Those are free moments. Those don't cost us anything. Those are
Mm.
things for ourselves that we can have for free by just taking a minute and enjoying that moment.
Isn't
And
it
that's
amazing when you look at
important.
kids and you see what we're talking about here, self-esteem? Before we get on here, I volunteered and did an event for Big Brothers and Big Sisters yesterday. There was basketball, there was, soccer, barbecue, and all of that. And at the end, this boy who was 11 comes walking around to all of us there, and there was about 17 kids and maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 adults,
Hmm.
um, and was shaking everybody's hand.
Oh,
And I was just like,
see?
whoa.
Yeah.
And we gave him a little advice that, firm grip when you shake hands and look at
Eye
somebody in the
contact.
eyes.
Eye
And
contact.
and
Yep.
he started, doing that. But
Yeah.
just so genuine and just I want to say sweet, but I don't want to make him like he was just
Yeah,
cool and just
absolutely.
like going around thanking everybody and just with a smile on his face, and you could tell he appreciated the day. And I said to his mom, like, you're doing great work with him. Keep doing it. But
Yeah.
just to see that self-esteem. I know when I was his age, there's no way I would be walking around shaking hands of a whole bunch of strangers ever.
Hmm. And right, and so that's the thing is you get to have these experiences which are just so amazing, and the big brother big sister stuff. That's great that you do that. We have a program here in Massachusetts called the Torch Program, and
Mm,
that's ran by it's a program that's free for the kids between the ages of 13 and 18 here in Massachusetts. And it's such an amazing program where the kids come for 2 full 8-hour days and really just get these skills and support from adult. I volunteered twice for it. It's an absolutely Diane Langford runs the program here through Yes We Care. It's absolutely amazing. But it's similar just watching these kids have that opportunity to flourish and learn and grow and acquire these skills that they wouldn't have the opportunity to. It's just so it's indescribable when you just think about the impact that we can have on these kids and their futures is just it's yeah it's be I
yeah.
I get a loss for words. I just get so worked up over it. It's just
Oh,
such
I
an
got you.
such an
And
amazing thing to be
and
part of every day.
and I want to say I was wrong going into this event. I'm thinking to myself, they said, 13 to 17 would be the kids that were there. There was younger ones also. Um, my visual of it
Oh
was
wow.
like half of them are going to participate. The other half are going to be walking around not really into it. Complete. I was way wrong. They were all like on the field, just having fun, like all into it.
Oh,
I'm like, oh, this is
they're
amazing. This is amazing. Like,
awesome.
and no devices. Nobody had any phones. Nobody cared. Wow. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the biggest thing, right? That is the biggest thing. And that those are memories that now, when you are sitting at the beach on the porch, those are things in your mind that you have to just kind of reflect upon. And those are all those are wonderful things that don't cost any money that, we can just do to be part of that really gives us that sense of
Yeah.
purpose, right? And
Yeah.
isn't that what we're working towards? Being the best version of ourselves, hitting that fifth that fifth area on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, getting up to that triangle. That's where we want to be.
To find that again, um, I think you said self-actualization.
Yes.
How do you define that?
So self-actualization is when you have reached your best version of yourself. You have
Okay.
reached your highest potential. You are now different from the self-esteem. So the self-esteem is our perception, our belief system, our striving for wanting to be better. When we've kind of acquired and mastered that piece of it, that's where we move up to that final piece of that self-actualization where we really have just it almost like it clicks, right? All the pieces come together, and now we have that plan of what we're going to do in alliance with the best version of who we can be. And so you can't really reach anything higher than that because you've met the best version of yourself. And not that you don't want to always continue to strive and be better, and not that we can always make tweaks of that, but to be able to achieve that and get past all of those four previous levels, which are really the first two of them are really very challenging to get through, for sure.
Hmm.
And not a lot of people can.
How do you, final question, just about out of time. Got to
Okay.
ask it. How do you know when you are the best version of yourself or the best thus far? Like you
Hmm.
said, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, everything can always be better, and I hate to look at it that way, but we can always improve. We're
Of course,
evolving.
nothing's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you know that you're the best version of yourself thus far?
Well, it all comes down to soul searching.
Mm.
So when you're sitting and having those quiet moments and your mind is quiet, that's a pretty good indicator that you're in a good place and being able to reflect and journey. We talked about the vision board and what are our goals? What is it, right? And you had said you had a vision board up there, which I love that. See, when we've reached all of the things in our life of where we want to be, I think we're in a good path. I think that's a moment for us to stop and reflect upon, okay, I guess I'm always asking the what's next. Well, when you're there, you know it. You have this inner sense of peace. You have this sense of self. You have, all of these things where you're not always looking for the next thing, the next accomplishment. And, I kind of, I can remember the day I hit that where I was not, where I was like realized I was always looking for that next accomplishment. And then, wow, I mean, I was on my motorcycle and I remember just all of a sudden just having this moment being, what is it that I'm looking for that I keep striving to achieve these things that just are, check boxes on my list when they're external things. So I've mastered, I had a Harley and, I was out riding and I kind of had that like epiphany aha moment of what is it that I'm really looking for? Because I've checked off a lot of the external check boxes, but I haven't checked off the internal ones. And that was for
Mm.
me was a pivotal moment of okay, it's time to do some more internal work because there's some things that are underneath that really needed to be resolved.
Uh-huh. And after this conversation, that vision board needs some adjustment. I'm just going to say that
Okay, that's
because
great.
the things on there, I'd like to attain, but
Mhm.
there's a few other things that I just realized in talking with you.
Oh,
And
good.
just leave it
See?
at that. And all of this, I get music downloads. You too. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Right.
Right? That's what I hear in,
Right.
in talking with you today. You have a
Yeah.
wonderful center that helps so many people. You have great staff, great team. How do we find you?
Newbeginningswc.com is our website. We're at 1280 Main Street in Worcester, and you can do your referrals right on our website. We do telehealth, we do in-person, school-based, med management.
I say it every time when we set a topic and my mind is thinking, or I say it to you, like, I don't know how I'm going to do like 30 minutes on self-esteem. Shut up, Steve. You can keep going. Um, Sherri, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.
You too.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.